Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm going to read out loud today to you, the viewers, my longtime viewership, millions and millions of followers. Everybody loves to hear somebody read to them. That's not true yet, but I think it's going to catch on. Today we're going to read Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Today's chapter 22, called Pleasant Meadows, which is going to be such a relief, I hope, from the dreariness of Beth being sick and Meg being, courted by a suitor, and Joe really struggling with it, and Laurie and Mr. Lawrence just going at it. It's been dark days, as one of our last chapters was called. So Pleasant Meadows sounds nicer. Like sunshine after storm were the peaceful weeks which followed. Now, in high school, were we allowed to start a sentence with like? No, but this practically ancient novel suggests otherwise, and I'm pissed at high school. I'm not at all. I don't know why I said that. The invalids improved rapidly, and Mr. March began to talk of returning early in the new year. Beth was soon able to lie on the study sofa all day, amusing herself with the well-beloved cats at first, and in time with a doll's sewing, which had fallen sadly behindhand. Her once active limbs were so stiff and feeble that Joe took her for a daily airing out about the house in her strong arms. Meg cheerfully blackened and burned her white hands cooking delicate messes for the deer, while Amy, a loyal slave of the ring, celebrated her return by giving away as many of her treasures as she could prevail on her sisters to accept. As Christmas approached, the usual mysteries began to haunt the house, and Joe frequently convulsed the family by proposing utterly impossible or magnificently absurd ceremonies in honor of this unusual Merry Christmas. Laurie was equally impracticable, and would have had bonfires, skyrockets, and triumphal arches if he had his own way. After many skirmishes and snubbings, the ambitious pair were considered effectually quenched, and went about with forlorn faces, which were rather believed by explosions of laughter when the two got together. Rather belied, not believed, belied by explosions of laughter when the two got together. Several days of unusually mild weather fitly ushered in a splendid Christmas day. Hannah felt in her bones that it was going to be an uncommonly plummy day, and she proved herself a true prophetess, for everybody and everything seemed bound to produce a grand success. To begin with, Mr. March wrote that he should soon be with them. Then Beth felt uncommonly well that morning, and being dressed in her mother's gift, a soft crimson merino wrapper, was borne in triumph to the window to behold the offering of Joe and Laurie. The Unquenchables had done their best to be worthy of the name, for like elves they had worked by night and conjured up a comical surprise. Out in the garden stood a stately snow maiden, crowned with holly, bearing a basket of fruit and flowers in one hand and a great roll of new music in the other, a perfect rainbow of an Afghan round her chilly shoulders, and a Christmas carol issuing from her lips on a pink paper streamer. The Jungfrau to Beth, Jungfrau. I don't know what that means. And my phone's over here charging. Like Carl Jung? What's a Jungfrau meaning? A maiden. Oh, Jungfrau. Is a German word meaning maiden or virgin. It can also refer to the prominent mountain in the Swiss Alps. Jungfrau literally means young woman. Right, young. Got it. Carl Jung. Got it. The Jungfrau to Beth. God bless you, dear Queen Bess. May nothing you dismay, but health and peace and happiness be yours this Christmas day. Here's fruit to feed our busy bee, and flowers for her nose. Here's music for her peony, and Afghan for her toes. A portrait of Joanna C. by Raphael No. 2, who labored with great industry to make it fair and true. Accept a ribbon red, I beg, for Madame Pure's tale, a nice ring made of lovely peg, a Mont Blanc in a pail. I get it, okay. The dearest of my makers laid within my breast of snow, accept it and the Alpine made from Laurie and from Joe. I got it. God bless ye merry gentlemen. God bless you, dear Queen Bess. Okay, got it. How Beth laughed when she saw it. How Laurie ran up and down to bring in the gifts, and what ridiculous speeches Joe made as she presented them. I'm so full of happiness that if Father was only here, I couldn't hold one drop more, said Beth, quite sighing with contentment, as Joe carried her off to the study to rest after the excitement, and to refresh herself with some of the delicious grapes the Jungfrau had sent her. So am I, added Joe, slapping the pocket wherein reposed the long-desired Udine and Sintram. I'm sure I am, echoed Amy, poring over the engraved copy of Madonna and Child, which her mother had given her in the pretty frame. Of course I am, cried Meg, smoothing the silvery folds of her first silk dress, for Mr. Lawrence had insisted on giving it. I'd love to have a benefactor that's so amazing. How can I be otherwise, said Mrs. March, gratefully, as her eyes went from her husband's letter to Beth's smiling face, and her hand caressed the brooch made of grey and golden, chestnut and dark brown hair, which the girls had just fastened on her breast. Brooch. Now and then, in this work-a-day world, things do happen in the delightful storybook fashion, and what comfort it is. Half an hour after everyone had said they were so happy that they could only hold one more drop, the drop came. Laurie opened the parlor door and popped his head in very quietly. He might just as well have turned a somersault and uttered an Indian war whoop, for his face was so full of suppressed excitement, and his voice so treacherously joyful, that everyone jumped up, though he only said in a queer breathless voice, "Here's another Christmas present for the March family." Before the words were well out of his mouth, he was whisked away somehow, and in his place appeared a tall man, muffled up to the eyes, leaning on the arm of another tall man, who tried to say something and couldn't. Of course, there was a general stampede, and for several minutes everybody seemed to lose their wits, for the strangest things were done, and no one said a word. Mr. March became invisible in the embrace of 4 pairs of loving arms. Jo disgraced herself by nearly fainting away, and had to be doctored by Laurie in the china closet. Mr. Brooke kissed Meg entirely by mistake, as he somewhat incoherently explained, and Amy, the dignified, tumbled over a stool and, never stopping to get up, hugged and cried over her father's boots in the most touching manner. Mrs. March was the first to recover herself, and held up her hand in a warning. "Hush, remember Beth." But it was too late. The study door flew open. The little red wrapper appeared on the threshold. Joy put strength into the feeble limbs, and Beth ran straight into her father's arms. Never mind what happened just after that, for the full hearts overflowed, washing away the bitterness of the past and leaving only the sweetness of the present. I'm going to cry. It was not all romantic, but a hearty laugh set everybody straight again, for Hannah was discovered behind the door sobbing over the fat turkey, which she had forgotten to put down when she rushed up from the kitchen. As the laugh subsided, Mrs. March began to thank Mr. Brooke for his faithful care of her husband, at which Mr. Brooke suddenly remembered that Mr. March needed rest, and seizing Laurie, he precipitately retired. Then the 2 invalids were ordered to repose, which they did, by both sitting in one big chair and talking hard. Mr. March told how he had longed to surprise them, and how when the fine weather came he had been allowed by his doctor to take advantage of it, how devoted Brooke had been, and how he was altogether the most estimable and upright young man. Why, Mr. March paused a minute just there, and after a glance at Meg, who was violently poking the fire, looked at his wife with an inquiring lift of the eyebrows. I leave you to imagine. Also why Mrs. March gently nodded her head and asked rather abruptly if he wouldn't have something to eat. Jo saw and understood the look, and she stalked grimly away to get wine and beef tea. Beef tea! Muttering to herself as she slammed the door, I hate estimable young men with brown eyes. Of course you do. What is beef tea? Little Women. What is it? 19th century invalid's drink made from meat broth, considered a nourishing and strength-giving tonic for the sick. So it's just like bone broth. A pound of lean raw beef, was cut into small thin slices and placed in a jar with water and a little salt. The jar was then placed in a large pot of water and brought to a boil where it simmered for a long time, sometimes up to 2 hours. Wow, they called that tea. There never was such a Christmas dinner as they had that day. The fat turkey was a sight to behold when Hannah sent him up, stuffed, browned, and decorated. So was the plum pudding, which quite melted in one's mouth. Likewise the jellies, in which Amy reveled like a fly in a honey pot. Everything turned out well, which was a mercy, Hannah had said, for my mind was that flustered, Mum, that it's a miracle I didn't roast the pudding and stuff the turkey with raisins, let alone billing of it in a cloth. Mr. Lawrence and his grandson dined with them, also Mr. Brooke, at whom Jo glowered darkly, to Laurie's infinite amusement. 2 easy chairs stood side by side at the head of a table, in which sat Beth and her father, feasting modestly on chicken and a little fruit. They drank healths, told stories, sang songs, reminisced, as the old folks say, and they had a thoroughly good time. A sleigh ride had been planned, but the girls would not leave their father, so the guests departed early, and as twilight gathered, the happy family sat together round the fire. Just a year ago we were groaning over the dismal Christmas we expected to have. Do you remember? Asked Jo, breaking a short pause, which had followed a long conversation about many things. Wow, we did start the book there, and they were like complaining about how bad their Christmas was going to be, and this is so beautiful that they're reminiscing about that and learning. Rather a pleasant year on the whole, said Meg, smiling at the fire and congratulating herself on having treated Mr. Brooke with dignity. I think it's been a pretty hard one, observed Amy, watching the light shine on her ring with thoughtful eyes. I'm glad it's over, because we've got you back, whispered Beth, who sat on her father's knee. Rather a rough road for you to travel, my little pilgrims, especially the latter part of it. But you have got on bravely, and I think the burdens are in a fair way to tumble off very soon, said Mr. March, looking with fatherly satisfaction at the 4 young faces gathered round him. How do you know? Did Mother tell you? Asked Jo. Not much. Straws show which way the wind blows, and I've made several discoveries today. Oh, tell us what they are, cried Meg, who sat beside him. Here's one. And taking up the hand which lay on the arm of his chair, he pointed to the roughened forefinger, a burn on the back, and 2 or 3 little hard spots at the palm. I remember a time when this hand was white and smooth, and your first care was to keep it so. It was very pretty then, but to me it is much prettier now, for in these seeming blemishes I read a little history. A burnt offering has been made of vanity. This hardened palm has earned something better than blisters, and I'm sure the sewing done by these pricked fingers will last a long time. So much goodwill went into the stitches. Meg, my dear, I value the womanly skill which keeps home happy. More than white hands or fashionable accomplishments. I'm proud to shake this good, industrious little hand, and hope I shall not soon be asked to give it away. If Meg had wanted a reward for hours of patient labor, she received it in the hearty pressure of her father's hand. and the approving smile he gave her. "What about Jo? Please say something nice, for she has tried so hard and been so very, very good to me," said Beth in her father's ear. He laughed and looked across at the tall girl who sat opposite, with an unusually mild expression in her brown face. "In spite of the curly crop, I don't see the son Jo whom I left a year ago," said Mr. March. "I see a young lady who pins her collar straight, laces her boots neatly, and neither whistles, talks slang, nor lies on the rug as she used to do. Her face is rather thin and pale just now, with watching and anxiety, but I like to look at it, for it has grown gentler and her voice is lower. She doesn't bounce, but moves quietly, and takes care of certain little person in a motherly way which delights me. I rather miss my wild girl, but if I get a strong, helpful, tender-hearted woman in her place, I shall feel quite satisfied. I don't know whether the shearing sobered our black sheep, but I do know that in all Washington I couldn't find anything beautiful enough to be bought with the $25 which my good girl sent me." Jo's keen eyes were rather dim for a minute, and her thin face grew rosy in the firelight as she received her father's praise, feeling that she did deserve a portion of it. "Now, Beth," said Amy, longing for her turn, but ready to wait. "There's so little of her I'm afraid to say much, for fear she will slip away altogether, though she is not so shy as she used to be," began her father cheerfully, but recollecting how nearly he had lost her, he held her close, saying tenderly, with her cheek against his own, "I thought you safe, my Beth, and I'll keep you so, please God." After a minute's silence, he looked down at Amy, who sat on the cricket at his feet, and said with a caress of the shining hair, "I observed that Amy took drumsticks at dinner, ran errands for her mother all afternoon, gave Meg her place tonight, and has waited on everyone with patience and good humor. I also observe that she does not fret much, nor prink at the glass, and has not even mentioned a very pretty ring which she wears, so I conclude that she has learned to think of other people more, and of herself less, and has decided to try and mold her character as carefully as she molds her little clay figures. I am glad of this, for though I should be very proud of a graceful statue made by her, I shall be infinitely prouder of a lovable daughter with a talent for making life beautiful to herself and others." "What are you thinking of, Beth?" asked Jo, when Amy had thanked her father and told about her ring. "I read in Pilgrim's Progress today how after many troubles Christian and Hopeful came to a pleasant green meadow, where lilies bloomed all the year round, and there they rested happily as we do now, before they went on to their journey's end," answered Beth, adding as she slipped out of her father's arms and went slowly to the instrument, "It's singing time now, and I want to be in my old place. I'll try to sing the song of the shepherd boy which the pilgrims heard. I made the music for father because he likes the verses." So sitting at the dear little piano, Beth softly touched the keys, and in the sweet voice they had never thought to hear again, sang to her own accompaniment the quaint hymn which was a singularly fitting song for her. He that is down need fear no fall. He that is alone no pride. He that is humble ever shall have God to be his guide. I am content with what I have, little be it or much, and Lord, contentment still I crave, because thou savest much. Fullness to them a burden is that go on pilgrimage. Here little and hereafter bliss is best from age to age. Pilgrimage. Fullness to them is a burden is that go on pilgrimage. Here little and hereafter bliss is best from age to age. Okay, Beth, I'm so glad Mr. March is back. Wonder what his real name is. Who knows? Okay. Chapter 23 next time, called Aunt March Settles the Question. Ooh, what's the question? How is she going to settle it? How exciting. Happy reading to you all. Take care. And ta-ta.